I'm Howard Phillips Lovecraft, and I want to take a moment and wish up a full and speedy recovery to David and David from all of us here on the program. Get well soon. Today's question comes to us from a young viewer who wants to know my thoughts on Andy Warhol and the pop art movement. Now, if I'm being perfectly candid, when it comes to this particular style of visual art, I'm not a fan. There's something about its recursive peculiarities which reminds me of Dadaism, and I must confess I've always been more attracted to art which reflects the classical ideals, notions of universal values to be found in art, and I recognize that this is somewhat fussy on my part, and I would never impose my own particular fussiness on anyone, unless someone wants to make me the curator of an art gallery, in which case I would only too happily impose my will on each and every one of you, so that all shall love me and despair. But despite my misgivings of his movement, Andy Warhol himself inspires a certain amount of admiration. There's something about his story which, and I say this in all humility, reminds me a bit of myself. The humble origins. Here's someone who got started by illustrating shoes and catalogs, and yet through their own cleverness, their own desires to impose a certain will on their genre, they wound up defining it. If you were to go out and ask the common Joe on the street to list a handful of 20th century artists, Andy Warhol would be right there at the top. And beyond that, there was his dedication to raising up those around him, to finding talent and nurturing it, something I recognize and approve of wholeheartedly. And then there's the fact that both of us have seen our 15 minutes of fame metastasize into something altogether different. We have seen our legacy stretch out, become larger than ourselves. We have come to define our respective genres, even as we ourselves become stretched until we are strange, kitschy icons in our own right, the McDonald's arches of horror and art, respectively. And while I might have a few thoughts and concerns about this quirk of my legacy, something tells me Mr. Warhol would only be too delighted. As always, I'm Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Thank you.